では始めましょう。日本語の教室のサムです。よろしくお願いします。今日は5回目の教室です。今日5回目の教室です。よろしくお願いします。よろしくお願いします。日本語の教師のサムです。日本語の教師のサムです。よろしくお願いします。日本語の教師のサムです。よろしくお願いします。今日は today 今日は5回目の日本語の教室です。5回目です。5回目です。1、2、3、4、5。5回目。1、2、3、4、5。5回目。Look at the kai. Isn't that an interesting kanji? It's two boxes inside of each other. It has the idea of a cycle. It's really a picture of an abstract idea of a cycle. These boxes are used for many things in Chinese or Japanese, whichever you would like. The inside box is called the mouth radical, and the outside box is an enclosure box used for writing words like country or garden, anything that's enclosed that's used. But in this case, I think it's just picturing a cycle, gokaime. Gokaime is the Japanese way of saying the fifth time, actually. Mei is it's literally, it's an eye. If you turn that kanji on its side, you can see the pupil of the eye. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the principle of kanji in this lesson. In this lesson, we will also be loading a Japanese keyboard onto our own computers. So I will try to keep the lecture part short today, but you know how I tend to go on. Gokaime, so that's like an eye, but it's also you know that Japan is very much is very famous for its textiles. It had a wonderful silk industry, ideal climate for the silkworm. Japan created beautiful silks, and perhaps some of you might have heard that Toyota was originally a cloth manufacturer. So in the Toyota Industries, there are many terms that come from cloth manufacturing. And so you have the woof and the weave, and it creates little holes. Those holes are also called an eye. So this is like a docket. So dokai me, go ikai me. There's first me, there's the second me. I think that's how this originated, ikai me. Me is very commonly used to indicate first, second, third, and fourth. There is a Chinese way, which I'll introduce to you at a later date if appropriate. Instead of gokai me, you'd say dai gokai, dai gokai. So it's quite different from the Japanese, gokai me, rather than dai gokai. I said I'd do that later, and I did it just now. Okay. I also last time talked about names, and I said that the names were adopted by the Japanese people in the Meiji period. And I was wondering about dates, so I did a little bit of investigation, and I found this in Wikipedia. It says that Japanese family names are extremely varied. According to estimates, there are over 100,000 different surnames in use today in Japan. That's in stark contrast with the Chinese. The Chinese call their people the old 100 names. Lao Bai Xing. The Lao Bai Xing just means commoners. Lao Bai Xing, the old 100 names. So family names go back centuries in China. They're one-syllable names. Most Japanese names are four-syllable names, or three. They're two-character names. All Chinese names are one-character name. Japanese names are two-character names. So here we see Sato with two characters there. The to is quite complex. Suzuki and Takahashi. Takahashi. Suzuki only has 3. Sato only has 2. But due to the nature of the Japanese language, so many of the Japanese names have 4 syllables in them, like Takahashi. Takahashi means high bridge. Takai, 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 Takahashi, takai. Okay. Hashi is bridge, bridge. Okay. Suzuki is a bell tree. A suzu is a bell. A ki is a tree. Sato is some type of creeper. I'm not sure exactly what a sato is. Okay, so, there was a law which required everybody to adopt a first and a last name, and that law was not promulgated until 1898. So before that, commoners didn't have names. It was so-and-so, son of so-and-so, but so-and-so. And a lot of the names, even today, that they adopted, depict natural objects, things that might be landmarks. So here we see Ueda, Ueda. And that means at the top of the field. You've already seen ue, meaning on. Ue, remember? And I said I would also introduce the opposite of ue, which is shita. See how the line has switched from the bottom to the top? And now the hanging part is under. That little dot is under. Whereas before it was over. The dot is sticking out straight on ue. It hangs a little bit on shita. Okay? Ue to shita. I don't think shita appears in any names. I could be wrong, but shita, ueda, at the top of the field. So we see a natural object there. There are many rice fields in Japan. And you can see that has the enclosure that I just mentioned, same enclosure that was used for writing kai. And you can see the little walkways. The field is filled with water. They plant the little shoots of rice in the springtime, and by the fall they're ready for harvest. And in order to walk between the fields of rice, the water, they make little walkways. You have those here in Kerala as well. Or we have them in Kerala. You may not be in Kerala. Anyway, okay. And then this is how you would write da. It's actually by itself, it's pronounced ta. And here it's ueda because it's the second word in the word composition. And you can see how the vertical stroke is written first, and then that hook stroke, that's such a common pattern, then it's filled in and closed off at the bottom. This is the pattern for writing kanji. So Mr. and Mrs. Ueda, Ueda-san tachi, the two of them, Mr. and Mrs. Ueda, Ueda fufu, the couple, Ueda fufu, Ueda-san tachi, okay, Ueda, Ueda, okay, and then Tanaka. Now the ta has this hard T sound. Tanaka, Tanaka. And this means in the middle of the rice field. In the middle of the rice field. Tanaka. Naka means middle. And it's also in Nakamura. Nakamura. Now, all of these kanji that I'm showing you today, I expect you to learn. You need to start learning kanji at the earliest possible date. So naka, once again, has that enclosure with the vertical line drawn first, then the hook, then the bottom's closed off, and then the line is drawn through. It goes through the middle, indicating naka. The Chinese pronunciation of this character is chu, and chu gets used in many different ways in the Japanese language. It has a grammatical function to it, and it's also used in the country, which we know as China, chugoku, chugoku, chu. But here, all of these family names have the Japanese pronunciation, the kunyomi, the kunyomi. So naka is longer than chu. So the onyomi, or Chinese pronunciation, is characterized by being one syllable. The kunyomi is often two syllables, and maybe even more. In the case of Ueda, da is the Japanese pronunciation. I believe that the Chinese pronunciation is 10, but I'm not sure. I need to look it up. The Chinese pronunciation, I don't recall seeing in Japanese words. But Tanaka and Ueda both have the Japanese pronunciation. Ue in the Chinese pronunciation is, let's see, Ue. I'm not thinking of it. Ge. Ge is down. Up is. We'll have to. Okay. Anyway, Nakamura has a naka in it, as does Tanaka. Mura means village. There's a wood radical there. We'll talk more about the composition of these more complex Chinese characters at a later date. Yamada, the same ta is in there, just as in Ueda, it's pronounced with a D sound. Yamada. Yama means mountain. And on the next slide, we'll see how it's actually a picture of a mountain. So this is a pictograph. We often hear Chinese characters called pictographs. They're actually logographs or ideographs. They express an idea, but they kind of picture things too. So this is Yama, Yama. And it's the same kanji that is used to write Fujisan. Now notice how the middle stroke is written first. That's because it's the one that's at the highest point. And the other one closes off the bottom. Okay? And look how the third stroke extends below the second stroke. A third stroke. So it has to be written in this order. Order is very important. Okay? We have Yamaguchi. Yamaguchi. Guchi is yet another new character, pronounced Kuchi, but here Yamaguchi, and we also have Kawaguchi, Kawaguchi. At the base of the mountain, or at the mouth of the mountain, and at the mouth of the river, Kawaguchi, Kawa. So we have Kawa. Oh, Kuchi is up there, written in the same way as the other boxed characters. And that second stroke, often when somebody's writing very quickly, will join the bottom of the first stroke, because the writer is getting ready to create the third stroke, so he just naturally pulls the pen over. So the stroke gets distorted a little bit. This is considered to be artistic. It's considered to have a personality. You're writing very quickly. So you just naturally draw that second stroke across to the bottom of the first stroke in order to write the third stroke. So that's why stroke order is so critical. And Kawa is simple. Okay, so I think we're ready to go to the next slide. Okay, so this shows you the origins of these letters. You can see that there's 3 mountain peaks there, and that the kanji just naturally conforms to those mountain peaks. In the second column, you see the older way of depicting the kanji. Kanji evolved over time. But you can see how it is a picture of a river. It is a picture of a tree, a picture of the sun. But over time, it was stylized. These are the very oldest remnants of Chinese writing. These oracle bones were discovered at the end of the 19th century or the beginning of the 20th century. It was written up in the American magazine called Scientific American. A lot of archaeologists and linguists have been interested by these bones. They're called oracle bones because they're used to predict the future. The king would have his shaman or his priest or whatever you want to call him, his pujari, build a fire and cast these bones into the fire. And the method in which they cracked would give an answer to the question that was actually written there. So there's a lot of names of kings. They can actually trace the history of the, let's see, I think it's the Xia dynasty. It used to be that they thought that history went back no farther than the Shang dynasty. Shang dynasty is very famous for its bronzes, which had writing on it. And through the bronzes, they were able to get a rough vision of what the history of Chinese royalty was. But this is the Xia dynasty, an even earlier dynasty. And most of the names of the kings have been documented on these bones. Okay? So this is the oldest part of Chinese writing. And until the invention of paper, Chinese was written on bamboo slats. This looks like it was done with a brush. I think it was also carved into the bamboo slat for the sake of posterity. And due to the carving, the bamboo slats had a grain to them, so the etching device had to follow the grain. So that's why the rounded sun here, we see the picture of the sun, that's why the rounded sun became squared off, because the etching material had to follow the grain of the wood. This is what somebody taught me once. I haven't actually read it, I just believed what my teacher told me. And the little dot inside the sun was to distinguish it from an empty vessel. Now, is it the Indians that are credited with the invention of the zero? We can't say that this was a zero, but for some reason, to distinguish this as the sun, the Chinese saw fit to put a dot inside the middle, which got lengthened. And so this is an actual picture of the sun. Okay. Here are some more oracle bone scripts. This one here is a turtle. You can see two different ways to depict the turtle. Here's another turtle, it looks like. So maybe, I don't know if they're all turtles, but you can see how the ancients drew these funny pictures. But this goes down to this day. This is three different ways to write the word turtle. The one on the far right is still in use in Taiwan. Taiwan has done the most to maintain tradition. Hong Kong also uses the more complex characters. The Japanese simplified the character to look like the one on the left, and this is called kame in Japanese, and it just means turtle. Now, most likely, kame is usually written in katakana. It's too much trouble to write the kanji for kame. So imagine trying to write this one. And then in their simplification campaign in the mid-20th century, the Chinese adopt this way of representing the same word, kame, pronounced gui in Chinese. Okay, and here we see how the stroke order would be for writing this very, very complex character. We won't dwell over it too long, but can you imagine trying to write this? Supposing your story was about turtles and the word turtle appeared many, many times in the story. It would be a nightmare, I'm sure. Okay. Because I was talking about names before, these names, I decided to find a driver's license on the internet. This was the best driver's license I could find. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, it says a sample. This is just a sample. Mihon. Mihon. Mihon means a sample. This is a mihon. Okay. They didn't want me to go out and use this driver's license, obviously. His name only has 3 kanji in it. The name is up here. This says Shime, which is his. Shi is his family name, and his Mei is his given name. And the family name is written first, and the given name is written second. This is read Motoi. I've written it up here in the Western style with the family name appearing second. This one-letter word is pronounced Motoi. Motoi, and his given name is Kenichi. Kenichi is a very, very common name. It often is written with the letter 1 instead of ichi, ichi, ni, san, shi, so Kenichi. There are several ways to write the same name. I used to professionally translate driver's licenses. We had a lot of Japanese visiting Detroit back in the 90s, and they would always want to get a local driver's license. In order to do that, they had to prove that they had a Japanese license, and they were required to have it translated by a professional agency. So my job was translating driver's licenses. And I often, even my Japanese colleagues, would call the customer and verify how to spell their name in English because it had to match the passport. Japanese names are not easy. Okay, so this is Motoi Kenichi-san, and in the next box it says that he was born in 1971. We see Showa 46. Remember where I told you about the era name. In 1989, things changed from Showa to Heisei, and most recently changed to Reiwa. So this is the official way of telling dates in Japan. So he was born in Showa 46. As I told you, I was born in Showa 30. So it was easy for me to translate the name into the year but you can look this up on the internet. There's a little calculator on the internet that will tell you. You put in the imperial era and it will give you the Western calendar year. And he was born in February, Nigatsu, on Juichi Nichi, on the 11th of February. 46年2月11日46年2月11日 And then next comes his address. And the address actually just had the name of a city, Higashi Shiomi, which I couldn't read. I had to type it in and look it up on the internet. Higashi Shiomi. Higashi Shiomi is in Shiga Prefecture. There are 46 prefectures in Japan. They're like counties or like states or something like that. It's the largest administrative division of the country is into prefectures. There are 46 of them. Japan is a small country, so you can imagine that these prefectures are quite small. Shiga Prefecture is not too far from Osaka and Kyoto. It's on the shores of Lake Biwa, which is the largest lake in Japan. So this is Mr. Motoi. And as I was trying to find out his name, I saw this Twitter thing. And to me, it looked a lot like him. I was wondering if this was the same face. So just for fun, I posted this as well to show you, Mr. Motoi. I imagine his ears are burning right now. He knows that we're talking about him. Okay. Before we back out of this slide presentation, I wanted to introduce a few of the more difficult hiragana. This is the hiragana for so. So. The one on the left is the more accepted form of writing this. It's all one stroke. So you have to proportion it correctly. Make sure that your zigs and zags are pretty much the same proportion as the zigs and the zags in this. Now I learned to write it the second way, and I can't change the way I write it. I prefer the second way. It's easier to write, in my opinion. I write a long line, and then I write the rest of it like that. So there's two ways. I felt good to find this. All of this comes from Wikipedia. Maybe when we get into the computer and I start exploring the internet with you guys, we might go to the Wikipedia page. It's very nicely set up. Wikipedia did a lot of hard work. I'm sure that some dedicated Japanese person that loved his language designed the article, but it's a beautifully designed page. Just type in hiragana into your Google and you'll get a Wikipedia page. And it has a little chart with the hypertexts. You just click on the kanji, the hiragana that you want to see, and you'll get something like this when you do that. So this is the word so. So, and if I say so desu, that's saying yes, that's the way it is. We would add an u to it. So desu, so desu, so. So you can imagine that this so gets used quite frequently. Okay. The so was where? Down here. This was the so. I'm not going to show you the other characters. I underlined these, put a square around these two that look alike. The ne and the nu look, the ne and the nu and the me look alike. There may be some other ones that look like it before. I don't know. Okay. And then there are three characters that start with a vertical line. And then the squiggly line works its way around it. Notice that in all three cases, that little zig at the top of it goes through the vertical line. So I'll leave it to you to look these up on the internet. I'll leave it to you to write them 100 times. I'll leave it to you to learn your hiragana. I think our hiragana lessons are pretty much completed at this point. I will probably introduce O to you when we learn particles. As I told you before, this is only used for a particle. So here they had hon o yomo. This is a little boy reading a book. Hon o yomo. So they had to write a whole sentence in order to show this character in context. Some of the other highlights here, we have the kame. You can see it written in hiragana down below. Kame, okame-sama. Okame-sama is a god. Kame can also mean god. Or is that, no, it's kami. Kami, sorry. Kami-sama. Kami-sama. Okay, kami is god. Gods and goddesses are called kami. Okay, this is kame. Kami, kame. Kami, kame. A turtle. A draft is called a kirin. I'll talk to you more about draft in the future. Kirin. This is a funny thing. I have no idea. I was going to look this up on the internet, but I didn't get around to it. Kuwagata. Kuwagata. This is a dung beetle, I believe. In Japanese, it's called a kuwagata. Here we have some yarn, which I don't know. I don't know this word. Keito. Keito. The next one is very famous. It's a koi. The Japanese koi can be one of the most expensive fish in the world. They're purely for decorative purposes. The more unusual the pattern on the fish is, the more expensive it is. And they're the ones that are swimming around in little fish ponds in high-class gardens. So each one of these, a rhinoceros is a sai. I didn't remember that. I don't use rhinoceros every day. It's a very short word. Sai, elephant, by the way, is zo. Zo. It's not represented here because it starts with a z sound. That's a modified so. Maybe if I got a katakana chart, we might see a zo. That's an elephant. So a sai is a rhinoceros, and a zo, such large animals with what short names. I don't know the origins of these names. A kirin, which is the giraffe is a mythological creature in Japanese mythology. But sai and zo, I don't know. None of the three of those animals are native to Japan, although I imagine elephants are more famous in Japan. And a zebra is simply called a striped horse, shima uma. Shima uma. Uma is horse. Here we had ushi. They took cow instead of uma. But uma means horse. Okay. And this is a shima uma. I mentioned suzume before, a sparrow, suzume. And this is a semi. I wanted to have a picture, and maybe later I will play you the sound of the cicada in Japan in the summertime. If you ever listen to a Japanese movie that takes place in the summer, it almost always has the sound of cicadas in it. Such a beautiful sound, and it's very, very typical of Japanese summers. Tokyo does not have all that many trees in it. It has a few nice parks, but what trees it does have is occupied by cicadas in the summertime. And it has a beautiful sound to it. Semi. Semi. Okay. And then soba. Today we learned so. Soba. Some of you may have heard of soba. It's a type of noodle. Soba is literally buckwheat. So when we're talking about soba, we're talking about a buckwheat noodle. And this soba here is on top of a bamboo tray, and there's probably some ice underneath it to keep it cold. This is a cold dish that's served in the summertime. The soba is cooked and then it's chilled. It's just like a spaghetti, but it has a unique taste. The soba is very good. And on the side is a cup which a little soy sauce is put into. And a little bit of wasabi, which is a kind of a horseradish, a very delicious and spicy horseradish, is put inside the soy sauce with a few scallions, and you dip the whole thing. Usually it's a bit bigger than that, so that you can dip everything in there. And you eat it with hashi. Here's a picture of hashi. Hashi. Chopsticks. Okay, hashi. And next to the hashi is nasu. Nasu is eggplant. Oh, and we can't overlook taco. Taco is a very popular food in Japan, especially the tentacles. There are small octopuses and there are large octopuses. The small octopuses will get eaten whole, and you might find those at your sushi restaurant. You may squirm at the idea of eating octopus, but it's popular in Greece as well and in the Mediterranean. When it has large tentacles, it has such a lovely texture. I happen to love octopus. When it's large, the Greek marinate it in oil and vinegar and maybe a little wine for many days before eating it. It becomes quite soft and it has a wonderful, wonderful texture. Anyway, we could go through the whole thing, but we have to go learn how to load something onto our keyboards. One last one. I said we were finished. This foo, I discovered that I write the foo wrong. This is how it should be written. It's 4 strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4 strokes. It looks like it's very difficult to compose. I think if you see other representations, This dot is much closer. This is actually sometimes has a little bit of a curve on it. It's not necessarily written this way. But I will show you how I write it. I join this all together. I just kind of make the number 3 and then put the 2 things on the side. I don't think my way of writing it is wrong, but you probably want to imitate the Japanese way of writing it. This is another rather difficult character, mu. It starts out like the a or like the o, but it goes a different way. So it's a little difficult. This is mu, and this is yu. Another one that I write wrong. I tend to, because it's written, this is one stroke here, and then I go all the way up to ta. I do the same thing that I'm telling you not to do with the ki and the sa. I join this. It should be an imaginary line, but I join the line. And I was hoping that they would give me permission to do it, but apparently this is the way to do it. I have provided you with an example of my own handwriting. I did this very quickly this morning. I'm not too proud of it, but you can see a, I, u, e, o, ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so. And look at how I write the so. I write it the alternate way. Ta, chi, tsu, te, to, na, ni, nu, ne, no, ha, hi. Look at my fu, my fu. Okay? It's generally proportioned in the correct way, but I should just have a dot and then the down below joining it. Should not be joined at this point. Ma, mi, mu, me, mo. Yeah, and look at how I've written the u. That's not correct. But this is the way I write it. Okay? So I made a little arrow to show you the 3 that I write incorrectly. Okay. Okay. Before we end, we have one more thing to discuss, and then we'll definitely go online and look at our Japanese keyboards. Speaking of going online, I did not prepare my interconnect connection, so I've got to do that. Okay. And I'm just going to back out of here a minute and get myself attached to the internet. Actually, I think I'll go back and do this later. Since I've backed out of the slideshow, I'm getting tired of talking anyway. So I'm going to connect you to the internet. Okay. This slide shows we'll do this later, maybe even in the next lesson. I know that I'm going to get carried away once we get into the internet. So this is my desktop. 2 or 3 years ago, I had the good fortune of taking a ferry boat from the port of Osaka in Japan to the port of Shanghai. It's a 48-hour crossing, and this is the entry into Shanghai. It's one of the most dramatic entries I've ever had into a city. We docked right about in this area here. This is the newer section of Shanghai with the famous tower there. This is the Huangpu River. Lots and lots of boats, and the main part of town is over here. This is the famous Bund. These buildings were all built back in the 1930s. So this is the old part of Shanghai, and the new part of Shanghai is over here. Our boat docked in this area. I think a boat probably docked about here, and I was able to walk to my hotel room. So that was a very exciting time. Okay, so what we're going to do, first of all, you can see down here, I have several different keyboards already installed on my computer. I have my English keyboard, I have my Mandarin keyboard, I have a Sanskrit keyboard. French keyboard I have there for spell check and for ease of making accents. The Malayalam keyboard I never use, but I enjoy the Indic. I use the Indic keyboard. I like the setup. So anyway, this is where I would go. Right now, I'm set up for Japanese. I can use, I think it was the window key and the space bar to switch. There's French, there's English, there's Mandarin, there's Sanskrit, there's Japanese, French. You may already know how to install these. We'll go back to the Japanese keyboard. Okay, you may know already how to install these, but just in case, click on your Windows logo and click on the settings bar. I don't have settings on my desktop. We go into settings and we go into time and language. This is where we will set our language preferences. And my time zone is in India. Okay, so that's for the date and time. I want to go to region and language. And let's see, I'm going to add a language. Of course, I already have the language that we're adding, but just to take you through the motions, here are all the languages that I can add. Feel free to add as many languages as you like to. With the speed of computers today, this will not slow your system down at all. It will not interfere with your system in any way. So you're going to look for, it's in alphabetical order, of course, but will you find Japan under J? You do. It's not under N, but we can see the Chinese characters there. So just click on it and you're done. You're installed. Once you click on it, you're installed. Okay, so I can close this. We're back. And let's just open a Word document. I'm just going to open a Word document so we can play around with it. Okay, this is our first. I thought I clicked on it. Oh, I did. Okay. So we're going to do a Word document. Okay. And I'm going to choose a nice large font. I think I'll choose 48. In my slideshow, I've been using 96 or something like that. So, and right now, it's in the Japanese. If I left click, oh no, that doesn't, never mind. If I left click on this one, if I right click. If I right click on this one, it gives me a number of options. Right now, the input is going to be in hiragana. This indicates that it's in hiragana. Okay, hiragana. It was in half-width alphanumeric. That's the normal English, half-width alphanumeric. So this is just going to type in English. And if you notice, if I do a with hiragana, the let's see, okay, takes up quite a bit more space than the S does. Of course, these are also but these take up only a single byte. This is 2 bytes. So it takes up about double the space here too. So that's why, and I can also type in half-width katakana. Doesn't give me half-width hiragana. Half-width katakana. There's half-width katakana, and there is full-width katakana. So you can see the difference. So these are used for various things. But you should know that basically a Chinese character takes up twice the space as a English character. So I can do it this way by right-clicking and choosing the one that I want, but there's also a toggle switch. If I pull up my keyboard right now, here we have the keyboard. If I click on the Alt key and the tilde up here. This is a tilde. That's in the far, my laptop has the escape key is above the tilde key. Anyway, if I click on the Alt key and the tilde key simultaneously, which is what I'm not going to, I don't know if I can, I don't know how to do that on the this keyboard. Alt tilde. Oh yeah, it changed. Alt tilde. You can see it changing over in here. It indicates that it's changed. Alt tilde. Alt tilde. Oh, I thought this one might change. What's this for? That's the, oh, that, I don't have this key. That key must be on a Japanese keyboard. My keyboard doesn't have this key. It would be convenient if it does, but since it doesn't, I use Alt and tilde to switch between the two writing systems, English and Japanese. And here it's giving me that. Okay, that's the electronic keyboard. My keyboard is a bit different. So I'm going to switch back and forth between English, which is represented by the letter A down here, and katakana. You can see that switching. Okay, so we want to type in Japanese now. We're all ready to type in Japanese. We're set up to type in Japanese. Now I'm just going to type in Romaji. So the first thing we will type in Romaji is N. There's the N. And then I. It immediately changes to katakana. But I can see that I have several choices here. I can take my mouse and I can click on the choice I want. Of course, I'm going to want this word. Below it gives me, I don't have to type in Nihongo. I can just type in the ni, and then it says I can tab. I can use my tab key to kind of scroll through all of these various candidates. Okay, how did that happen? Oh, I had a few extra ones on there. Okay, I'm going to back out of that. We're going to start over again. Ni, ho. Once I type the O in there, the H is going to disappear, and it's going to become ho. Ni, ho. And to get an N, I have to type N twice. Now, in most cases, if I do N and G, it automatically changes. But when there's an N followed by, let's see, like an I, and I want, what I would really want is, oh well, it doesn't matter. Okay. N. Just know that if you type N twice, it comes out. Okay. But you don't have to type it twice in this case. Nihongo. And notice how the two dots are on the ko. Nihongo. Now, it's I have already typed in Nihongo no kyosutsu, so that's automatically coming out. So this selection candidate list is, it remembers, I don't know how many it remembers. It certainly remembers the last one you typed in. Okay, so Nihongo, we'll just do that. Okay, Nihongo, Nihongo. This is the one I want. I've been using it says to use the tab key. Right now I'm using the space bar. I always use the space bar. Just like you put a space between words, I often find that when I'm typing Japanese, I'll use the space bar because it kind of automatically happens where a word starts and ends. So this is also your selection key. If I like that, I just continue typing, or I hit the enter key. I'm going to hit the enter key right now. Okay, but I could also go Nihongo and type the space key, and then just continue, immediately go no, and now it's selected. Okay, Nihongo no, and to me that's a separate word, so I'll just hit the enter key immediately because that's the one I want, and then Kiyo. Now look at how the yo is smaller. Kyo. That's what we're going to look at next on our chart. How we have these words with kyo. Nihon no kyou shitsu. So when I do Nihongo no Kyoshitsu, it's fine. If I forget that you, kyo shitsu, it has the word shitsu, but the kanji is wrong. So I have to put in that u is automatically there. Okay? Nihongo no Kyoshitsu. Okay. There was something else I was going to type next. Oh, Tokyo. So u. So I type to, there's to, and then I type a u, and you see to, and then kyo. Once again, the yo comes out, but I have to type the u there, Tokyo, Tokyo. Hit the space key, and there's Tokyo. Okay, Tokyo. And I want to illustrate that that's how it's written. And of course, if I change to English, I'm going to type T, and then to get the O, I have this at the top because I use it so often, insert a symbol. Okay, and the ones that I use most frequently are here. So that O is there, to, kyo. A little bit annoying to write, but I think you get the idea. So we're in our word sheet. Is there anything else I wanted to do? My mind is running in 6 different directions right now. Let's just close it and let's look at an Excel sheet. So this can be used across your platform. It doesn't, so I can use it in Excel, and we want a blank. So I have Japanese. I have Romaji. That O should have a line over it. Romaji and English. Part of speech. Classification. So I'm making the vocabulary list that I'm hoping that you guys will make. Let's see, what was it? Priority? I don't think that doesn't sound right, but anyway, priority. So depending on how often you want to see it, you may want to see how well you know it. If you know it so well that you don't want to ever see it again, just put 99 there, etc. So for the Japanese, we once again use our Alt and our tilde key to switch keyboards. And now I write Nihongo. Oh, I remember the other thing I wanted to show you. Nihongo. Eigo. And that's in kanji. Let's see. And now I'm just going to hit look, it's giving me all these candidates. I'm just going to hit my space bar, and this is the one I want, so I'm going to hit the enter key. And so we're getting ourselves a nice, now I don't like the fonts here, so I'm going to choose my favorite Kaiti font. I like that Kaiti font. And I like a bigger font because it's much easier for us to see it. Okay, and okay, so see how wonderful this is. Romaji is ni. Whoops, I got to switch back to the English keyboard. Nihongo. Eigo. Furansugo. And then, of course, the English, I won't fill all that in. Yesterday, I was doing A. Remember, I kept saying, if I do A, that's the word for picture. So that's all it takes for A. If I did A, it's going to, let's see. Well, it's not going to come up with that picture at all. It's going to come with a whole bunch of other things. So I'm going to back out of that. Okay, and I'm just going to go A. And there we go. And that's A. A. It's not ego. So it's just A. And it means picture. Of course, it's a noun. And let's see. We'll do it with, what do we want to do? Or actually, rather than picture, I think drawing. Although picture is also okay. A photograph is a shashin. Looks nothing like a. And this is shashin. And in order to make it very clear, you might want to put a hyphen between shashin. And we put photo. And it's also a noun. Okay. We might, for the classification, put hobbies. This you might want to put drafting or something, whatever. The category thing is for you to determine. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to show you, I think I need to go back into Word for this. I don't think I have this option in Excel. I'm going to go back into Word. And I don't even know if I have it in PowerPoint, but I could go into Word and then cut and paste. But in Word, this is a very nice feature. Actually, there's several features I want to show you. The first one is for the, let's see, home, for the page setup. We have Asian typography, indents and line spacing, no. Where is the direction of the text? That's under, maybe it's under paragraph. No. I think I have to go to maybe layout. Yeah, text direction. So here I can make the text go vertically. Okay, and now my cursor's over here. I want to go back and have the giant font. We'll go with 48, and we'll go with, oh no, I got to change over to Japanese. Nihongo. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? Okay, now if I want to do the pronunciation, since this has a phonetic guide on it, please select the base for the phonetic guide. What does that mean? Select the base for the phonetic guide. Well, this I haven't seen before. Oh. Maybe this is the base for the phonetic guide. So I have to, okay, as an extra step I have to put in there. It doesn't just do it. Okay, and there I have Nihongo. Nihongo. So that is what is called furigana. It's written in hiragana, of course, but it's small hiragana, and it tells you the pronunciation of a word. This will be used in your basic text. We'll see this later. But isn't this cool? So I have all sorts of options here, and you can play with it as you go along. We're going to close this. Okay. I have a feeling that an hour has gone by. Once again, I forgot to look at the clock when I got started. So I'm just going to go through this anyway, really quickly. So we have in addition to kaki, ku, ke, ko, we have ga, gi, gu, ge, go. And we just get that ga, gi, gu, ge, go by adding the two dots above the ka, two dots above the ki. And above the ku, ke, and ko, it becomes ga, gi, gu, ge, go. The same with the z sound, za. There is no z in Japanese, just like it's sashi. This is za, ji, ji. And ji is very commonly used in Japanese, ji. Okay. Zu, we have two ways of writing zu. And this depends on what the original character, sometimes you've noticed how that when, sometimes it can be like in Tanaka, the T was a T sound, but in Ueda, it was a D sound. So depending on what the original hiragana was, you're going to either choose this to write zu or this to write zu, because these will change according to the environment that the word is in. A little complex for you at this point. This one is much more frequently used than this one, zu. So, za, 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 zashi, zashi. Zashi is a magazine, zashi. Zo, zo is over here. Zo, with a long u, I think. Zo is an elephant. Za, ji, zi, ze, zo, da, ji, zi, de, do. Notice there's no D, like in Hindi. There's a special key combination. They've developed a way to say D, but it's a little complicated. We're not going to get into it. That's really advanced. But there is a keyboard way to input D. We'll go back and take a look at Hindi maybe in a future lesson. Ba, bi, bu, be, bo. So these are all the words that need to be softened. But then this is ha, he, hu, he, ho, ba, bi, bu, be, bo. But we also have a P sound. So the H column is the only one that the P sound appears in. Pa, pi, pu, pe, po. Pa, pi, pu, pe, po. I remember that used to make me laugh. Maybe you've already laughed at the Japanese syllabary. It's comical to somebody that's never been exposed to it. It's so cute. I don't know if the comical is the right word, but it's cute. Okay, and then like in here we have the ya, the you, and the yo, the ya, you, yo, written in the chisai, the subscript, like H2O. It isn't that much smaller in print. When I'm writing it, it's usually quite a bit smaller, and I think I even physically bring it below the line. I don't know. Anyway, this is smaller. If you look at it written, this would be bigger. That's a small kya. Kya, kya, okyakusan, okyakusan, kyaku, kyaku, kyakusan. A kyaku is a guest, okyakusan. Kyu, kyu ni tomemashita. Kyu means suddenly. Kyu ni tomemashita. Kyo, and I ever talked to you about Tokyo, Tokyo. And new, gyu new. New means it can mean to enter. That's nya. Nya, konyaku, konyak, honyaku, honyaku. No, honyaku is not right. Anyway, I don't think the nya is used all that frequently. New, nyo, bia, bu, bio, mya, mu, myo. And this is not pronounced ja, it's ja, 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 ju. And ja and jo are very, very common. Jo. Jo, I think we may have already seen Jo. Anyway, okay. And che, cho, sha, kaisha. Okay, anyway, these are all using the little letters. Okay. So ka, kya, kyu, kyo, gya, gyu, gyo, nya, nyu, nyo, hya, hyu, hyo, etc. So, that's it for today. 皆さん、どうでしたか？面白かったですか？ I think it was a good class. My energy level is different today than it was yesterday, but nonetheless, I think it was successful. また会いましょうね。また次回会いましょう。さようなら。さようなら。